Hi, this is Donna Lewis again with the Clark County Park District, and today I'm doing the Crow Reading and Nature program in collaboration with the New Carlisle Library. Now, usually we do this in person, but because there's still some restrictions on size of groups, we're still doing it virtually. So hopefully those of you that could normally come to the program can view this program. So today we're going to talk about birds and what you can do to help birds right in your own backyard. Even if you're at an apartment, you can do some things to attract birds or to help birds just by your everyday activities. So first we're going to read a book called When Winter Comes, Discovering Wildlife in Our Snowy Woods. Some people think there's nothing out there when they go outside during the snow, when it snows outside or when it's nasty outside like this. But the animals are out there, we just don't always see them. Sometimes they're hiding underneath the ground. Sometimes they're just kind of laying low up in the tree, in a hole in the tree, or perched up in the branches, and we just don't see them. But they're there. So this is by Amy M. Bissonnette, illustrated by Aaron Horrigan. It's a really cute book. So first we're going to read this book for those of you that have never been to one of these programs, and then we'll talk a little bit about birds and what you can do yourself to help birds out there. Also, CROW stands for Children Respecting Ohio's Wildlife. So there's a lot you can do, even as kids, to help the wildlife right outside your back door. Okay, so again, I'm getting distracted. When winter comes. We know it'd be helpful to start at the beginning of the book. When winter comes, and deep snow blankets the woods, and ice forms cold and smooth on the lakes, thick enough for us to skate on. Some people think our woods are empty, but we know better. So here's a great picture. I think they are skating out there maybe. Yeah, they're skating on the ice. There's some snow-covered evergreens. We know the fallen log we duck behind as we toss snowballs back and forth. Oh, they're having a snowball fight. The whole family's out there. What fun. Is a sub-zero shelter for tree frogs, caterpillars, snails, and slugs, hibernating mosquitoes, and ladybugs. So as they hide behind that log and they're playing, there's some stuff underneath, inside that log, going into a torpor, like a sleep, and some animals are hibernating. So not all animals go into a full hibernation. So there's some frogs, what did she say, snails and slugs, caterpillars, all hibernating under that, in that log. We know the windswept drifts we snowshoe across cover tangles of tunnels below the snow. So they're walking over tunnels right now. What do you think are in those tunnels? So you're walking on top seeing nothing up there, right? But there might be a lot underneath you as you walk. So tangles of tunnels below the snow made by meadow mice in search of seeds and bark, and hiding places after dark when the owls hunt. So there's some meadow mice hiding in those tunnels underneath, all cozy for winter, but they may still have to go find some food, so they come out at night when the hawks don't see them. Oh, and did you see the hawk up there? We know the frozen lake where we come to ice fish hosts a slushy slumber party of sleepily swimming rainbow trout. And they are ice fishing. So even when the pond is frozen or the lake is frozen or the river, there's things living underneath, lots of fish still swimming underneath there finding food. Now there's other things too that are underneath that are just huddled down at the bottom for the winter. And turtles who once sunned themselves at the water's edge lie buried in the lake bottom's gooey muck. So here we have turtles underneath the mucky part of the lake. See, that's where they go for the winter. We know the towering trees we ski among shield hardy birds from bitter winds. So as they ski down the hill, there's lots of birds around in those trees. They may not see them, but usually they are going to be there. So a lot of birds don't leave for the winter. Chickadees, juncos, nuthatches, and jays, birds who flock to our feeders back and forth all day and cluster on branches at night, feathers plumped against the wind. So they're helping the birds out by feeding them outside their house. And then they can see them up close. When winter comes to our woods, we know the animals who sleep the winter away. And look, they've got some animals that they're tucking in, probably stuffed animals, right? The wild animals are not going to be tucked in your house. They have warm places to live outside. So we have a badger and a bear and a skunk. It looks like she's holding a little hedgehog or something. Porcupine, because we don't have hedgehogs around here. We know the animals who sleep the winter away, the ones who hunt, the ones who are prey. So there's a fox hunting. And let's see, we got rabbits and deer. And they are the prey, right? The fox is a hunter. The ones who leave wandering tracks in the snow, and the ones who howl to the crisp, clear stars late at night. So we've got a mouse and a bobcat or a lynx, probably a lynx in this book. Wolves, coyotes around here, right? Looks like an otter and raccoons. Yep. Could be a mink that they're trying to portray there. We grab our sleds and race downhill, scarves flying, icy wind in our faces. We need a good snow like that, right? So we can go sledding. We know we share this wild and wonderful wintry world. And there's a deer watching them as they leave. Because the woods are not empty, they are very much alive. And we feel very much alive when winter comes. The end. Oh, what are they doing there? So they're building like a snow animal there. So this family loves winter. So this is a great book. It says When Winter Comes. So it talks about what they do in the winter and what the animals are doing in the winter. It's a really neat little book for kids, and you can check this out at your local library. I got this through the New Carlisle Library. And a lot of times if your library doesn't have a book, they can get it for you from another library. So make sure you check it out. So what can you do to help birds? Now, a lot of you might be kids watching this, maybe adults, but we can do just little things to make a huge difference. We don't have to depend on the big companies and the farmers and everything to do all the stuff that needs to be done for the wildlife. We can do it ourselves with just little changes. There's a lot of great things we can do for birds. And before I started, I was on this really good website that I go to a lot, and I'm going to tell you about that in a minute. Let me get that back up. Okay, so one thing we can do is feed the birds, okay? So you can just do one feeder to start. I mean, it can get expensive if you do a lot of feeders, but the great thing about it is that you can see all the birds that are just in your yard or in your woods that are just kind of hiding out. They come close so you can see them. And it really helps give them some food in the winter when they can't find as much as they might need. So not only can you feed the birds, but study the birds as they come to your feeder. So one of the things I do is I will look outside at our feeders at work and even look outside in my yard or when I take a hike somewhere. And I have this little journal, and you can use any kind of journal. It could just be a notebook. And I write down the date and the location and what kind of weather there was and what I saw. So I have some things from last year. I have some stuff in here from 2016 from a big trip that I took. So there's a lot of birds that you can see in the winter. They're not just here in the spring and summer. Some of our birds, my dog's about to bark, some of our birds are here all winter long. So some of the birds that you're going to see all winter is things like the tufted titmouse, the white-breasted nuthatch. There's also lots of different woodpeckers. The cardinal, okay, you can see I have a cardinal right here on my wall here because I love decorating with pictures of nature, so especially birds. So you can see the cardinal, the blue jay, chickadee, just like the book mentioned. And if you don't know all your birds, you can get online and look, like on your phone or on your computer. And one of the site that I love to use is called, it's from the Cornell Lab of Ornithology, and it's allaboutbirds.org. So this is the website that I use a lot to look at birds and to find out more information about birds. I'm going to give you another website that I go to as well. So that's one of my favorite sites. They have a whole section about feeding birds. So common feeder birds, like quick info on food preferences. So you can look up the bird you want to attract and what kind of food you need. So one of the best foods to put out there that a lot of birds will eat, a lot of your birds that you'll want to see, is black sunflower seed. You can do the regular striped sunflower seed or the black oil. I usually put out black oil sunflower seed. So at the Davidson Interpreter Center, we get the Carolina chickadee, and we get tufted titmouse and the white-breasted nuthatch. We get the red-bellied woodpecker. So a lot of people think that the red-bellied is a red-headed. So there's a big difference. So red-headeds aren't usually seen at feeders like the red-bellied woodpeckers. Red-headed woodpeckers have a full red head. It's like they're a superhero and they put a full red mask on, okay? So their whole head is red. A red-bellied woodpecker has a little bit of red on its chest and a patch of red up here. If it goes all the way to the beak, it's a male, and if it goes a little further back, starts a little further back, it's a female. So there's little things you can learn too about the different birds. So the good thing would be is to have a field guide. You can also look online, but sometimes flipping through a field guide is the best thing for me. I'm very bad about looking up the name. I just flip through until I see it. But if you look up woodpeckers, oh, there's a red-headed woodpecker right there, okay? So they love the oak trees and the more heavily wooded areas. But what you'll usually get at your feeder is going to be a red-bellied woodpecker. See, there's a little red on the chest. Now, this is the National Geographic Field Guide to Birds of North America, but one of my favorites is the Peterson Field Guide, and that is at my workplace right now. But we'll get a lot of different woodpeckers at our feeders. So I'm just trying to find the common ones here. The hairy and the downy. The downy is a really common one. It's hard to tell apart from the hairy woodpecker, but the downy comes a lot. We also have the pileated, and if you have suet out, a lot of times the pileated will come. So you'll get a lot of different woodpeckers. They stay here all winter, and so does the chickadee and the nuthatch and the titmouse. The cardinal stays here all winter long. The blue jays. And blue jays, a lot of people think they're mean. They're not mean. They're just a bigger bird, a bigger, bolder bird. And a lot of times when the bigger birds come around, the littler birds will leave because they're just not so sure if it's, going to hurt them or not. So it kind of looks like a predator to them. And they're kind of pushy. They get in there and they get the food they want. But they're not mean. They just know how to get the food that they need to survive. So but there's a lot of birds. Crows, the American crow, is here all winter. And they'll eat just about anything. Usually they're not seen at your feeders, but a lot of times they're seen near your feeders, eating some of the stuff in the trees, and they prey on certain things as well, if they can find them, bugs and stuff. And your woodpeckers are getting a lot of your grubs and stuff in your tree as well. But putting out suet and sunflower seed, safflower seed, is going to attract these other birds. Now you can put a mix of seed out with cracked corn. That's usually going to get your mourning doves. They're here all winter. But you'll also, with the mixed seed, you'll get everything. So you'll also get your house sparrows, which some people don't want to attract. But they will eat that. And so will some other birds as well. Thistle is really great to attract your finches. So your goldfinches and your house finches. And they stay all winter long as well. So you can feed the birds, and that helps them out a lot. And study the birds at your feeder. And you can learn the different types of birds that come to your feeder in the winter. It's a really great time to learn about your birds because we don't have the migratory birds right now. And you can also listen to them. If you're sitting outside in a quiet spot near your feeder that you can watch them, you can learn a lot of the bird sounds. All right, so there's some other things you can do as well. So who has a cat? Yeah, a lot of people have cats, and I love cats. A good thing to do for your cats to help birds, because they get millions of birds a year that they don't need, right? Because we feed them. So cats are a domestic animal. The best thing we can do for birds concerning cats is to keep them indoors, because cats prey on a lot of our wildlife that other animals need to eat. And one of those are birds. And they don't prey on them to eat them. They prey on them usually just for fun, right? It's an instinct with cats to hunt. So one thing we can do to really help out our birds in our backyards is to keep our cat inside. Some people even put catios on the back of their houses that their cats can play in to be outdoors, but they won't affect the bird population. Some people also walk their cats on a leash outside. And some will put things on their cats to warn the birds. But supposedly if you put a bell on their neck, sometimes it confuses the birds and makes it worse. So there are these flaps I've seen. I don't know how effective they are anymore. I haven't seen them in a while, but they would fumble the cat to not be able to get the bird. But I don't think they worked really well. I haven't seen them around a lot. But you can just help birds by keeping your cats inside. And it also makes for a much healthier cat, because there's so many things that can get your cat outside. They will be preyed upon sometimes by dogs. A lot of people blame coyotes. It's not usually coyotes, but if it's a cat that's injured or in danger, a coyote can more easily get it. But most of the time it's not a coyote. Most of the time it's cars or people that hurt our cats. So it's a good idea to keep them inside. So another thing you can do to help birds is prevent your birds from hitting your windows. When a bird sees your window, it sees the reflection of what's behind it. So it's seeing the reflection of the trees or water, whatever that's behind the window. So it's thinking it's going to fly right through, right? But then it hits the window. And a lot of times these birds, sometimes they just get kind of, they get a little head injury, a headache, and they can fly on later on. But sometimes in that time period of recovering, they get caught by, eaten by something, they get preyed upon. And so what we can do is we can put things on our windows to help prevent those strikes. And it's a lot of information. So a good thing to do for these tips that I'm going to tell you now, I'm going to get back to my website here if it lets me. Okay, maybe not. All right. One of the things you can do is go to abcbirds.org so that this video isn't 25 minutes long. So if you go to abcbirds.org, you can learn some really great tips on what to do for your birds. So it'll tell you good ideas to keep your cats indoors. Things you can put on your windows to prevent birds from hitting windows. It also talks about avoiding the use of pesticides. And one of the biggest pesticides is neonicotinoids. And they call them neonics. So it's a lot easier to say. But neonicotinoids are found in a lot of plants that you buy at nurseries. So read the label and make sure that those pesticides aren't there. But when we use pesticides, it doesn't just kill the insects that we're going for. It kills the birds, it kills the rodents and the snakes and a lot of other things that we need to help prevent a lot of pests out there. So sometimes we're hurting ourselves by using pesticides. Plus, it's not good for us to breathe in, right? So on the American Bird Conservancy site, abcbirds.org, they have ways to also, different pesticides to tell you about and how to avoid using them. You can go native with your landscaping. So if you plant native things in your yard, it's easier to take care of them. And it's really good for your birds and your bees and butterflies. Lots of things that you want to attract to your yard. You can also buy bird-friendly coffee, and you can find it online. So it's coffee that's grown in a way that's beneficial to birds instead of detrimental to them. So that's all found on the American Bird Conservancy site. So 2 great sites to go to that you or your kids can go to look around. It's the Cornell Lab of Ornithology, which is allaboutbirds.org, and then the abcbirds.org. is another great site to go to. So look at those two sites for some really great ideas. And your kids will probably have a lot of fun looking at those sites too. Cornell site, you can go to every bird and learn about its habits and learn about what it eats. And it's a really cool site. So that's all I have for today. So what I challenge you to do is to maybe try one of these things that help birds. Feed your birds. Try to keep your cat inside. To put some things on your windows to prevent them from hitting if you've seen the birds hitting your windows. So there's some different things you can do to help. And of course you have to ask mom and dad for help. But another thing you can do is get a notebook and observe the birds that come to your yard. Even if you don't have a feeder, you'll have birds coming to your yard and you can observe those, maybe draw pictures, write down about their behavior, what they're eating, what they're doing. It's fun to look back on, and it's a great way to learn about the wildlife right outside your door. We don't have to live in the rainforest to see some really cool things. We have some really amazing animals right here in Ohio. Now, Miss Maggie always has a secret word of the day, and your secret word of the day today is woodpeckers, all lowercase, woodpeckers, plural, okay? So make sure you get that secret word of the day in so you can enter into Miss Maggie's contest that she has. And I want you guys to have a great day. Hopefully we get some snow soon. I know some of you don't like it, but it's great to get outside and play in the snow. So hopefully we'll get some of that soon. You guys have a great day. Until next time, bye-bye.